Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 6th of February 2023. February already. Dear oh dear, where does the years go? Anyway, it's Gary here again and I'm not long back, actually probably just over 24 hours now, from our whirlwind trip to Toronto for some convention planning and our NARSA general meeting and the like, and what a trip it was, and some of it not good, by the way, to be dead honest with you. On my way over on Friday, I was supposed to arrive in Toronto at 4 o'clock, ended up getting to the hotel about 11 or something like that p.m. Friday night, and before we left the house, we knew we were already delayed. One app saying 20 minutes, the other app saying 5 hours. Okay, we get through this weird check-in process. So I'm going to preface all this by saying, or spoiling the surprise a wee bit actually, and saying if you have ever got an opportunity to fly with Flair Airlines, don't. Please trust me, just don't. We have this weird check-in process where the guy tells me I should take the battery out of my toothbrush that has the battery, built into to the toothbrush. And he's standing there a wee bit dishevelled. He wasn't really presenting himself very well, so that got off to a wee bit of a weird start. We then go into the lounge, have a couple of beers, a couple of wee nice bites to eat and things like that. The time passes fairly well because we get a chance to do some work, so that's not a big deal. 6.5 hour delay getting out of Calgary. We arrive in Toronto much later than we were supposed to, and then lo and behold, there's no suitcase. So I've got my laptop and my charger and the mouse and all that sort of stuff, and I have the clothes that I am in, and that was what we had to do with for the weekend for both Erin and I. So we got to the hotel, as I mentioned, about 11 o'clock at night. Everyone had had a good night, you could tell, by the time we got there, and there was zero sympathy for the fact that we didn't have anything. In fact, there was a wee bit of delight around the table that everybody was having a right good laugh at the situation and circumstance. So we got a toothbrush, or a couple of toothbrushes actually, and some deodorant from the hotel. On the Saturday we did a wee bit of shopping, got some stuff just to tide us over for the weekend, and then we found out yesterday on the way back that the case actually went to Edmonton instead of Toronto. So okay, just get it back from Edmonton to Calgary. We can send it to Toronto if you want. No, we're in Toronto airport and we're going to fly back to Calgary in an hour. So just send it back to Calgary. Oh yes, okay, we'll send it back to Calgary. And guess where it went? Yeah, it went to Toronto. So arrived in Toronto today, had a couple of phone calls actually with them, and they're apparently flying it back tomorrow morning at the back of 6 a.m. So it should arrive in Calgary around about 9ish or so, and then there'll be another load of crap process to follow to get my stuff back. So, well, mine and Erin's stuff back, I should say. So, yeah, not so fun having to wear the same gear and for almost the whole weekend. And but then I have to say, when I got back last night and I got home, I had nothing to unpack. I had no toiletries, I had no toothbrush to plug back in. I had nothing to put in the laundry or anything like that. So I can't say it was that bad, just pouring a glass of wine and just sitting watching the telly and hanging out just for a wee bit. So pros and cons, like everything. Anyway, I'm not saying any of that to complain about it. It was dumb, it was funny, it was stupid, the processes are broken, the people supporting the processes aren't very well educated in the process in the first place, and it ends up becoming just a wee bit of comedy. I just sincerely hope that that's not the case for the remainder of the convention planning, because that will not be very good. And well, not so much convention planning, actually getting to the convention in June as well. I hope all that stuff is ironed out by then, but I can assure you I will not be flying with Flair Air. Anywho, games segment. 2 games this past week, as you'll remember, and do you know what? It was kind of the best of both worlds in terms of quality of play, in terms of entertainment, in terms of action. The pendulum swung from one side very much to the other between Wednesday and Saturday's game. So starting with Wednesday's league game at Tynecastle, we ran out 3-0 winners, my apologies. with goals from Alfredo Morelos, two from Alfredo Morelos actually, and one from Malik Tillman. He's becoming very prolific for us, isn't he? I know I keep talking about him every week, but some switch has been flicked with him and Michael Beale since they came in, and his goal tally. Well, I should say he's adding goals now to his general overall play, as well as setting them up as well. So brilliant to see from the young guy. And in summary for the game, it was just absolutely brilliant. I thought from start to finish, from the very kick-off, almost everyone was up for it. Hearts did what they can do now and again, gave it a good go, and they got their arses handed to them by us, didn't they? Yeah, really good. And you think they would learn that that you can't do it. Like, Rangers are one of the two best footballing clubs in the country, and right now I would say that we are the best, and we're starting to get ourselves dominating again. So that's great to see. But as I say, you think they'd learn, but no, they don't. And I was saying to some friends and family, like, truly, after watching that game, so what actually happened for me was I was in work all day, I had meetings all day, I couldn't watch it. Had Brian, Martin and Scott down in the States giving me some updates on it, looking at the NARSA communications list as well, just to make sure I wasn't missing too much. And then it was, a lot of the times I'll maybe not watch the full game, and I'll put the full game on after, and I'll just kind of keep half of an eye on it because I know the score. This one, I was glued to the TV from the first to the last minute. It was a brilliant spectacle for Scottish football. Absolutely brilliant it was. But anyway, I was saying to friends and family, like, can you imagine honestly watching games like that every single week, where the two teams are going for it? Obviously it's much better when your team wins, and having that little added bonus there, but just the entertainment, the spirit the game was played in, the atmosphere, the excitement, the pace, the quality as well from both sides, not just from Rangers as well. I thought it was great. Just, how incredible would it be to actually get that level of entertainment, week after week after week, instead of like a one-off, which is kind of so often the case. So positives from the game, everything. It was most likely our best performance of the domestic season as far as I can remember. I remember back in, November, we beat Aberdeen 4-1, and that was really good as well. But this one just seemed a bit more complete. Maybe I'm a bit biased because it's Michael Beale's reign now. But we were brilliant for pretty much the entire match. And what a benchmark Michael Beale has now to say to the team, look, we've seen some of the worst stuff. I'll get to that for the next game. But this is exactly what you're capable of. And he did actually mention that with talking about raising of our collective standards when he said afterwards, that is 6 away wins on the bounce, so that is something we can be proud of. But I just said to them, we have set a standard now, and I don't want us to come off of that. I just love that. That's back to the relentless feel that we had in the 55 season. In terms of stats, we had 14 shots on goal to Hearts' 6, and it was actually 50-50 in terms of possession, which I thought was a wee bit interesting. I'm always assuming that we will always have more possession, but to see that come out as half and half was quite interesting. And we just pressed them from the very beginning, to the very end of the match, as I mentioned, and just gave them no room and pressed them high and did really well on and off of the ball as well. So, I'm kind of biased when it gets to stuff like this, and I'm thinking that the score could have been a wee bit more emphatic. But a 3-0 away victory to a team that's supposedly our biggest rivals in terms of securing second place, give me a break on that one. But anyway, it was very, very good. Negatives, you know what, kind of connected to the game, but not fully connected, I should say. The complete and utter sensationalism of Alfredo Morelos' goal celebration, and then the very unfortunate fallout from Neil McCann's completely unhelpful commentary. He called him an idiot a couple of times when he was on the radio. It just attempted to take away from what was an absolutely incredible away performance from Rangers, and unfortunately then the press latch on to that, and McCann has kind of fumbled his lines a wee bit afterwards as well, and the excellence of the performance and result are somewhat diluted for some. Not for us real true fans, but for some, it was just a good welcome distraction. Here's Alfredo Morelos doing something bad again, and then we've got an ex-player. I know he's an ex-player of both clubs, but we like Neil McCann, and he does really well and is very honest and open in his commentary or analysis, I should say, on Rangers TV. But oh man, did he make an absolute mess of that the other night there. So I don't get it. I don't. It's so weird for me as to why Alfredo Morelos has upset so many people, and just by being, bullish and buffalo-ish, I guess I should say, and the wholehearted through his every single game that he plays, and like there's commentators just don't seem to need much, if any, motivation to get on his case. Ali McCoist is often kind of going out his way to be kind of critical of him as well, which is, I just don't know. I'd love to know why. Everybody's got their opinions and stuff, but we just expect a wee bit more from the ex-Rangers contingent, because they know what it's like to be there. They know what it's like to be under the spotlight and go with the scrutiny. And what Morelos did anyway, celebrating his goal like he does after every single goal, to have that criticised is just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Anyway, that's the only negative I can really have. So as I say, kind of connected to the game, kind of connected to the commentating. On the referee watch, like the previous week, referee John Beaton managed to book 6 players in a game that I just didn't think was particularly nasty or worthy of that level of scrutiny, or that level of admin for him after it, to be quite honest. I was annoyed that the Ryan Kent booking, after Beaton had given the penalty initially, and he had a couple of players in his way. You could see why he would give it first. Then he overturned it with the VAR assistance. And, was it a penalty? No, that wasn't really. But was it a booking? I've seen worse. Now, I'm not saying this was simulation, that's what you get booked for. But I've seen worse simulation than that go unpunished in a game. And I think there has to be some leniency here at the speed he was going, the fact that he's trying to anticipate the contact, and he plays for it. But in my opinion, the disallowed goal and the penalty, disallowed penalty should have been punishment enough. And they could have just left it at that, but because it didn't feel to me like it was completely blatant. I know Kent didn't do too much complaining afterwards as well, but yeah, because of that, he's getting a 6 out of 10, and that wasn't very cool. The second game was Saturday's 2-1 home win in a stubborn and stuffy game against a stubborn and sturdy Ross County side. We eventually eked out the game, results wise anyway, with goals from Malik Tillman. Remember what I was just saying there, right on half time? And the winner by Borna Barisic via a massive deflection from a free kick in 75 minutes after they had equalised around about the 65-minute mark or so. You know what? We were out there over in Toronto Central's club and down at the Madison pub, and it was a great time there. When we got there, it was very, very empty, and then it started to fill up, so there was quite a few beers there by the time the game got into full swing. So it's kind of happy, we're getting a couple of beers, we're getting a chance to have a bit of a laugh, but boy man, that was a tough game to watch. And were we panicking at the end? Not really, but one goal is one goal, but it was just nothing like the Hearts game, and we're not expecting that, of course. We're at Ibrox and teams are going to come and do what they call the low block and that kind of thing, but it's just to completely dominate and create enough chances to win 2 games, but then again become quite wasteful up top, and then their equaliser comes. It was kind of coming, wasn't it, the equaliser, and it came after the way John McLaughlin basically came off his line and just got his timing completely wrong, like he did the entire game. And I think it's fair to say now, and I don't mind making this public, that I'm a better goalkeeper at cross balls than John McLaughlin is, and I don't even play in goals, and I'm just a wee guy, and I think I would still do better than him. It's just awful. I'll get to that a wee bit more in a second here. But Ryan Kent hit the bar with a screamer. Their goalie, a couple of good saves in the game, particularly in the second half, but just a grind to watch. I didn't have the fear at the end of the game that we were going to lose the game or lose any points in the game like you've had before, where they're actually getting some chances. But even just watching the highlights back quickly today, there was nothing to note. It was very, very comfortable, but the scoreline makes it just feel a wee bit more fraught at the end than it needs to be. Positives, absolutely the result, and that's 11 wins and 1 draw since Michael Beale came home, and things are going very well on that front. And again, back to that 1 draw, should have been a win, and that would have been kind of great. 12 on the bounce we would have had then. Anyway, we are finding ways to win, and that's absolutely crucial for us, because as I mentioned it last week and maybe even the week before as well, that mob in the East End are just churning out result after result after result, and we just need to keep doing the exact same and look for some other things to happen elsewhere and see what happens from there. But as I say, looking back on the highlights, didn't really give up too much. Ross County, I thought that for the entire game actually kind of knocked the ball about when they had it okay, and were kind of plucky and decided that they weren't just going to give up much on the day, and I guess their game plan worked. And another positive was to see our newest signing, Nicholas Raskin, get some game time with bizarrely the wrong socks on, and my new best mate Todd Cantwell boss the show and get man of the match as well. And I actually shared something on the NARSA WhatsApp group. I think it was yesterday, maybe. It's probably yesterday. I was too busy on Saturday, and it was just I think it must be a brother or a cousin or something of his had put some stuff on social media just saying very proud of you for getting your man of the match stuff, and it just showed you some of the things that you get from a man of the match perspective. There is still the bottle of champagne, although you don't see that getting presented publicly anymore. And then there was a wee Rangers kind of medal as well saying man of the match, and he was standing very proudly on the side of the pitch displaying that as well. So a great start from him. He's doing really, really well, and might have got a goal as well if he had that curling shot had dipped down at just about half a yard earlier. Negatives from the game. The main thing for me is McLaughlin's flying salmon tricks. Is that what we should call it for cross balls? I was chatting to a mate who was at the game on the weekend, and we kind of came to the agreement, his suggestion more than mine, to be honest, was that McLaughlin now has it in his head that he's the goalie that comes for crosses. And I think that's truly affecting his decision making. Because Alan McGregor is the goalie that doesn't come for crosses, and he's the shot stopper. McLaughlin is the guy that does come for crosses, and now he's just all over the place. I mean, he got some of those horrendously wrong on Saturday, which was bizarre, because he is actually better than that, but just one of those games, and that's where the goal came from him as well. Just another just waste of time to jump for that, and the boy puts it in. Another negative would be John Lundstrom's blind crossfield pass that led to a chance in the first half, and then he fair play to him, he tracked back, and then he blocked the ball from going in. But I think it was at that point that he injured himself in the process of doing the block. So two things about that. One, how many times are we going to do this blind cross? But I don't understand that. I don't even know why you would do it at the top of the field. Maybe as you're trying to just kind of keep the play flowing and kind of bamboozle the opposition as we're attacking. But to do that in our half without even looking, I mean, we've seen it before. Alfredo did that during the Old Firm game. That cost us the first goal, and it's just something that's creeping into our game. I've no idea. And the second thing, the very unlucky part, to break up the attack, but for that to be the start of the end of the match for him was a real shame. And it's not a serves you right or anything like that. I mean, John Lundstrom has been tremendous for us, albeit a wee bit more patchy this year than he was in previous years. But he didn't deserve it. And by all accounts, in terms of the injury, it doesn't look great. We were going to hopefully get an update today, but we didn't get any updates today on that actually. But he had one of the big kind of moon boot cast things on, so that's typically not a good sign. So we might be missing him for a wee bit, just as we've just got a midfield that's got some variety in it, it's got some choice in it, got some new players in it, and then we lose one in the game immediately after the signings are complete. I don't know. On the referee watch, Ewan Anderson was just utter garbage, utter junk the whole game. Another 6 booking game there as well. And the guy, inconsistency personified. He let some stuff go, pulled other stuff back, broke things up, just generally get in the way. And obviously one of these guys that just thinks that he's part of the show and part of the entertainment and wants to make sure that he can make himself known for that. But generally very, very inconsistent for the entire match and annoying. When the match is bad enough and then you've got this guy breaking it up even more, just junk. So he's getting a 5 out of 10 for that. One game this week, just the one game, and that's on Sunday the 12th of February, and that's with an 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 4 p.m. UK kick-off's a wee bit of a later one this week, which is great. We can get the pints flowing at Pin Bar as soon as the game starts, actually, and that's of course at home to Partick Thistle in the Scottish Cup. And then just a wee quick look forward to next week. It's the league game at Livingston on the plastic pitch, and then the week after that's the League Cup final as well. So some big games coming up here. In terms of RTV, you are getting the game, the Scottish Cup game this weekend, of course, as part of your RTV account for the season. The login, everything should be absolutely normal, but as we always do, just take a peek at that if you think there's anything changing at your club, so we can get you some help and support prior to going. For shout-outs this past week, I did want to start with the very untimely passing of former goalkeeper Billy Thomson. And the article on the Rangers website said, and I'll just read it out here if you don't mind, all at Rangers Football Club were saddened to learn that former player and goalkeeping coach Billy Thomson has passed away at the age of 64. Billy Thomson, who enjoyed a fantastic playing career with St Mirren, Motherwell and Dundee United, with whom he featured in the 1987 UEFA Cup final. He was in the Rangers squad in the seasons 94-95 and 95-96, where he made 7 appearances. He returned to Rangers as goalkeeping coach in the early 2000s and worked with Stephen Kloss and current goalkeeper Alan McGregor. The thoughts of everyone at Rangers are with Billy's family and friends at this difficult time. 64 years old, that is incredible. That is very, very young, no age at all. I was trying to look online, there's always especially for younger folks, there's always a desire to kind of try and find out what happened, not that makes any difference to the friends or family of Billy, but just to try and, just out of interest, I guess, more than anything else. It's not anything morbid from my perspective, but I'm not sure exactly what it was, and I'm not sure how sudden it was or anything like that, but either way, 64, just as I say, no age at all. So on behalf of NARSA, I'd just like to pass on sincere condolences to Billy's family and friends. They are very, very sad. Secondly, I did want to do a shout out to the entire NARSA executive for their help and support with the organising of the general meeting this past weekend there, and especially to the folks that were able to make it over with their family or friends into Toronto this past weekend as well. We did have all of the exec there, minus Alec Grant and Alan McWatt, who were both, it was touch and go to the very end as to whether they could make it or not, and they were both gutted that they couldn't, but they absolutely attended and contributed to the general meeting as always, and it was great to see them on screen. And we also had Gaynor Campbell, the wife of Brian, Therese Ferguson, wife of Billy, and my love Erin, accompanying us and supporting their and my partners as we were working through the weekend. And I know I've talked about this a couple of times before, I never take any single second of dedication to the NARSA cause for granted from anyone, and as I say, I have mentioned that on a number of occasions, and it's not just the people who do it. That's why we did that series earlier in the season. They are just to kind of get to know the people a wee bit more and who their background support structure or support framework are. And it was just to see the genuine help and support of everyone connected to the NARSA executive is really heartwarming, and I genuinely mean that. So thank you very much to all of them. And we even had a couple of welcome guests fly in from Halifax, and that was the wonderful John and Karen McTrusty, who are friends of the Campbells and friends of everyone else that they met on the weekend as well. We had a very, very good laugh, and they came down and had a great time. And Karen actually warned me. She listens to the pod every now and again. I think she actually finishes one or two of the pods now and again. And I did get a warning about not being depressing. Don't be depressing and start off on a high and end on a high sort of thing. So absolutely, I will do that. I do my best to try and do that every single week. And that will continue as we go forward as well. And we did meet them yesterday morning, and I think there's a wee bit of karma involved when they were having such a great laugh on Friday and Saturday at the fact that my suitcase didn't arrive, and then on Sunday morning they realised that their flight they had booked for February the 5th, they actually booked it for March the 5th. So either they got to stay in Toronto for another month, which I don't know many people that could afford to do that, or they had to go and buy an extra couple of flights, and I think it was like $600 or so. I don't know if that was each or if that was in total, just for a one-way flight to Halifax to get them there. So what a downer. The reason I laugh at that is it's not funny, of course. I feel very bad for them, but that's the sort of thing I could imagine me doing. It really is, where you're just kind of multitasking a wee bit. You think you're paying attention. You book it. Are you sure you want to confirm the booking? Yes, of course I'm sure. And then all of a sudden you don't you don't have that organ. Oh dear, I felt bad. That's a lot of cash to lay out on a day when you just want to get home after a bit of a heavy weekend. So great to see John and Karen again. I look forward to seeing them again in June. For NARSA 2023, one of the main reasons we were over in Toronto there, I can officially confirm that it's 128 days. Mark my words, that it's going to be very, very, very quick. Well, it's obviously going to be 28 days, that we're going to get starting under the 100 days, and then the time just absolutely flies in from there. So 128 days and 18 weeks until Toronto Midtown give us the worldwide entertainment that they're planning for this year. Just a reminder on the hotel rooms and the tickets that are on sale, and I suspect that we're going to see a real flurry of activity on those over the next month or so. So if you're planning on attending that, please don't delay. The hotel is roughly about 70% sold out for right now. The sales are starting to get a wee bit more serious now. They were fairly slow for a wee while, but they're getting a lot busier now. So that's a great thing for us. And just a reminder again that we've got the Holiday Inn Flight Centre have their one-stop package organised for travel and accommodation and transfers and event tickets. So if you go to attheconvention.com or call Rosie and team at the telephone number in there, we'll get that organised as well. And just another reminder, a plug for the signed home jersey raffle for this year. If you book by Valentine's Day, which is a week tomorrow, on the 14th, yep, definitely the 14th, I promise, and then you will get put into a draw to win a signed by the full squad home shirt for this current season as well. And one thing we did get a chance to do on the weekend, that you've probably seen it already, is to announce the Davy Cooper Memorial Golf Tournament. Yep, we finally got that one over the line and got it organised, and that's going to be on Friday the 16th of June at the Richmond Hill Golf Club, which there's been varying opinions about whether it's a good golf club or a bad golf club, or a good golf course, I should say, or a bad golf course. And we had one of our very, very loyal members on the NARSA WhatsApp group yesterday just say, "That's a crap golf course. I hate it. It's rubbish. It's not worth the money." And I don't know if that's genuinely true. I mean, it's genuinely how he feels, because that's what he said. Or he just had a bad day that day, and then, is it a good workman blaming his tool? I'm not exactly sure, but either way, it's out for sale anyway, and we hope to get a bit of a decent crowd there. So it's going to be $235 per person, and I know that's a lot of money, but you know what we're really being affected by this year, folks, is the travel costs. Getting people to and from the places that they need to be is costing a lot more this year than it has in previous years. We're also experiencing a wee bit of that with the flute band back home and back in Glasgow as well. So what that $235 gets you is 18 holes of golf on the course, which is either good or crap, I'm not sure. Share the golf cart just with one other person, I suspect. Breakfast, which is going to be rolling sausage, square sausage, a barbecue lunch, and transportation to and from the hotel. And I'm sure there's going to be prizes there as well. Rental clubs, if you're interested in rental clubs, that's going to be $35, and you can advance. You can do that by emailing them and letting them know, I'm sure. We can organise that through the actual bookings as well. So the details you can transfer, email or e-transfer, or do PayPal to pay for that as well. So really glad to get the golf out there on sale. It's not been for the want of trying. It's just a lot of work to get these things locked down, and things are just moving a wee bit slower than they typically do. So well done to Andy and team for getting that one organised as well. Still hearing a wee bit of noise about people trying to book rooms pre and post and being told there's no rooms available. So I'm going to go down the list again for you for this one. And on the 12th, which is a Monday, there's 9 rooms available On the 13th, 8. On the 14th, 11. On the 18th, which is the Sunday, 17. And on the 19th, 10. That's the number that's available. 9, 8, 11, 17 and 10. So if you phone in, the hotel says there are none left, I had to put another call in to the hotel today to say, why does this keep happening? Please let us know. Is there something we can do to communicate this a wee bit better for your reservations, folks? Because it's them that's sending us the pickup report, and the pickup report tells us we have all these rooms available. So yeah, I don't quite have a clue about what that looks like. And we did have a convention planning meeting with Andy Burnett and John and Ian Dalrymple on the weekend after the general meeting, and we talked through the various logistics of, now that the golf is out, or it was planned to be out at the time, but it's out now, and we talked about the magazine, the excursions, the entertainment, the golf and the football, and we're in good shape in the golf now. We just need to get the football organised, get that out, and then the excursions as well. I know they are working through things. Are probably going to come a little bit of a kind of perfect storm over the next wee while, where everything will get out there, and hopefully that won't be too much for you to handle at your side. But yeah, they're working hard on it, a wee bit later than we would like, a wee bit later than we typically do this, but we have assurances it's all going to be okay, and I trust that it is as well. So we did have our general meeting on the weekend as well. We went through, we had actually exceptional participation from the clubs. I'd mentioned before that they're fairly well, no, it's the exact opposite of that they're fairly lowly attended in terms of our participation from clubs. But on this occasion we had a lot of clubs definitely hit quorum for the membership to be there, and it was great to see everyone. We had some good dialogue, some really good questions came in. We had a chance to do some special shout outs. We did a kind of in person in memoriam to Terry Ellis, and we had some other things on the go as well, just things to organise and talk about, and it was good. Yeah, I think the meeting went well. We did talk about the convention, of course, and the preparatory planning. One of the main things I was talking about with the entire membership, and then with the NARSA executive subsequently, was that this is a convention. This is a convention. Of course, it's a convention year. This is an election year. And the election this year, the basic rules are: you get your nominating club, you get a seconding club, and then you put your nomination in. You have to do that 2 months in advance. So that's going to be the 17th of April. I believe you'll have to get that into Sandra, and then if we have more than one person for a role, then we would go to election on the day of the AGM, and then we would see who the successful candidate is. Every single position on the entire executive is open for election, apart from the president role. You have to be as part of the NARSA executive for at least 2 years concurrently prior to the election to do that. So there's a small pocket of people that can qualify for that for this year. And we also talked about RTV. That was one of the major topics. Of course, we managed to be in a very fortunate position to pay the entire season for this year. I don't think that's going to be possible for us to do it again unless we have another bumper year. But things are going to materially change from an RTV perspective as we move forward in terms of their ability, or not ability, their willingness to be able to support us when we are dropping in numbers each year in terms of what we can afford to pay them. So more to come about that, but we had the chance to discuss that privately with the membership on the weekend, and we'll get a wee bit more information out to them over the next wee while. So yeah, just onto the communications section for... Actually, before I do that, I just wanted to pass on a genuine thanks again to Jack Jackson and his crew over there at Toronto Central for hosting us, and for treating us so well when we were there as well. It was a great time that we had there. A lovely club that they've got there, and a nice wee setup they have in the corner as well. So that was good. I always love going to different places and seeing what different clubs are doing. From my own selfish perspective, from a Calgary perspective. As we move on as well. So thanks a million to Jack. Great to see him again, and looking forward to seeing him again in June. And of course the other troops that were there as well. On to the communication front, not a whole hell of a lot, as you'll be happy to know, as we're pushing over the 30-minute mark for this week. But the one thing I did want to talk about was New Edmiston House. I mentioned New Edmiston House last week, and one of my pals was actually at New Edmiston House before the game and sent a video, and they had a Q&A with Scott Arfield, and I think it was Divine that was there as well. I couldn't really see from the photo, to be dead honest. But so the Q&A with first team squad members before the game, and it looked really big. It looked like a lot bigger than I expected it to look. My experience of New Edmiston House was a frame when I was last there, and which was last year. So to see it now completely finished, and well, staggered finish. It's wind and watertight and open for some levels of the operations that they're trying to do. But anyway, but the reason I wanted to mention that this week was that they've started to announce some events there over the next wee while, and no surprise, we have some really staunch Rangers themed artists coming along. So the first thing they're going to do, the first official thing they'll do there, apart from the grand opening, which is not this weekend but the following weekend, is the Night of Legends, which is part of the club's Weekend of Legends 2, and that's going to be on the 25th of March after the game. On the Saturday night, so that coincides with the game, of course, as well. And then announced today 2 concerts. The first concert ever at New Edmiston House will be with Friends of NARSA, St Phoenix. Stevie and Al Dukes will be over there on Friday the 31st of March for basically the week after the Legends Weekend of Legends. And that's on the Friday night, and the pre-sales tickets go on sale on Monday, then I believe the full sales on Wednesday, something like that. And then hot on the heels of that, the following week they also have friend of NARSA and entertainer at the 2022 convention in Las Vegas. Callum Beattie is going to be the entertainment at the New Edmiston House on Friday the 7th of April. So it's 2 staunch Rangers supporting acts and very, very good musicians to boot. So that's great to see that they're starting to get going on that. I don't know that they're going to have a concert every single week. I guess they're just going a bit hot and heavy at the beginning, but that's great to see, and it'll be really, really interesting to see what that looks like in terms of the gig experience for both the artist and for the guests and attendees as well. Anyway, that will do it for this week, my friends. A wee bit longer one this week. I had some stuff to cover just in terms of the logistics of everything that happened on my crazy travels, but more so what actually happened when we were there. Next week I'm going to share a wee bit more information about the hotel logistics and in terms of the physicality of the hotel and what we can and can't expect when we're there. It's going to be a wee bit different than we've experienced before, just due to some restrictions in the space that we were able to nab for that particular weekend. So we might be in a couple of different locations. It depends on how it shakes out between now and the convention time in terms of ticket sales. But I want to just gather my notes a wee bit about that and do a better job of that next week, so I didn't want to just kind of block that out. But it's going to be a wee bit of a different experience. Not a bad thing. It's going to just be something a wee bit on the different side. As always, thanks a million for taking the time to listen. And please pass it on to anyone you think might enjoy it each week. And until next week, here's to hopefully some good news about John Lundstrom's injury, to a proper Glasgow derby, and of course the result of the Glasgow derby being that we progress to the next round of the Scottish Cup. Until next week, my friends, take care. Thanks very, very much for listening, and all the best. Cheerio.